Buy the latest song by Timcast, Coming Home. Go to getcominghome.com, buy the song on iTunes, and with your support, we will smash those Billboard charts. From Politico, Harris and Trump take an America First tone on dock workers' strike. Foreign shipping companies that dominate seaborne trade draw bipartisan criticism at U.S. ports. They say Vice President Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are so far taking the same side in the strike by East and Gulf Coast longshoremen, speaking up for the American workers against the foreign-owned shipping companies that control ports in the U.S. The fact that major political leaders from both parties are taking aim at the European and Asian-based shipping companies represent an early political victory for the dock workers. Quote, American workers should be able to negotiate for better wages, especially since the shipping companies are mostly foreign flag vessels, including the largest consortium, ONE. Trump said in a statement on Tuesday evening, the Singapore-based ONE is the sixth largest shipping company in the world. Harris also sounded a message sympathetic to the port workers on Wednesday, despite the risk that an extended strike could trigger price spikes and commodity shortages that would imperil her chances of defeating Donald Trump. So right now, most of you may have heard, the dock workers are on strike. You better get your goods now. You better fill up your gas tank, whatever it is you got to do, because we get so much of our stuff from overseas. Your bananas, gone. Heineken, you're in trouble. Imported cars, there's already a shortage of cars. It is going to get intense and prices are going to go up. Now, Kamala's in a rough spot. Trump, not so much. Trump's going to come out and say, keep it up, boys. We wish you the best. Why? The strike is good for Trump. I mean, it's brutal, but this is going to negatively impact the economy under Kamala Harris's watch, and that will benefit a challenging campaign. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden could come out and what is it, the Taft-Hartley Act, I think? I'm not sure.
Taft-Hartley, yeah.
Right, where they could basically say, get back to work or else. But if he did that, the unions are all in this country going to be like, we're voting Trump, and they already may be. The only thing Harris can do is support them while it tanks the economy and hurts her chance at winning this election.
That, it's such a tight election, anything could make a difference. And this could genuinely make a big difference. Just to kind of point out, 43% of all imports get through these ports on the East Coast.
Wow.
The ones impacted by the strikes. That's, $5 billion per day. That impacts everything from cherries, alcohol, home appliances, the auto industry. And as you said, Tim, Kamala's in a very tough spot. Because on one side, you've got Biden, the Taft-Hartley Act. But if he does that, 90%, this year's 85%, but generally it's 90% of the donations by the unions are Democrat. 90%. So if he invokes the Taft-Hartley Act, which I think George Bush did in 2002, I think it was, that could backfire on him really badly. But at the same time, if he does not reach a resolution, and just to point out, I think that as far as I'm aware, the longshoremen union the union has not yet endorsed Kamala. Usually they do, which kind of makes it even tougher for Kamala now. So I don't know how she could solve this, and this could end up, they could bring, the ports on the West Coast could try to compensate for that. It's a very tricky situation. We do know that the ports as well stocked up on imports before the strike, anticipating the strike. But how long could they last? The last one that happened was in 1977. That lasted 6 weeks. We don't have 6 weeks.
No.
Right. Yeah, the time frame is the most important issue here. So I think you mentioned $5 billion. I saw $4.5 billion from JP Morgan today. So give it a few days, you're not really going to feel it, but give it a few weeks and cars aren't on the lots, and then you're really going to feel it. And that's before the election. So, end of October, if that's still happening, that could have a really big impact.
Seems like the worst part would hit right when the election is happening, which means that when the shelves are the barest, so to speak, that's when voters are going to the polls. It's not a good look for the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, or if you're J.D. Vance, the Harris-Biden administration, to start and end their term with empty shelves and high consumer prices.
And it's already having an impact. Sorry, the polls take time to show. Polymarket, again, I use Polymarket all the time, and there's others, I'm sure. But I always look at it every day. It's like every morning I look at a few things, including Polymarket. A few days ago, Kamala was ahead, 50 to 48. After the debate, it went 49-48. And small margins, but they make a difference, 49-48. Again, Kamala. And after this news started gaining traction, now it's 49.49 as of earlier today. Wow. So it's back to it being even. It was like a 5-point difference a week ago. And that's, again, people betting money. That means if they bet wrong, they lose their money. It's not just saying, hey, I'll vote Kamala, I'll vote Trump. So I think that is important to note. I think this will continue to develop if they can't reach a resolution.
So actually, in aggregate, I pulled up the Real Clear polling betting odds. Trump is actually ahead by 0.1 in the betting average. So you mentioned
see how it's changed over the last few days?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Look at that.
So Trump just pulled the lead very slightly. You can take, and I do think the J.D. Vance Tim Walz debate is going to give Trump a tiny bit of, fraction of a point. I don't know if it's a full point off that because it's the VP debate. But you take a look at this. Betfair has Trump winning by 1 point, 40-47. BetSun has it tied 51-51, which is kind of odd. That makes no sense. Bovada, I don't know what their metrics are. Bovada is 50-50. BWin is 50-50. PointsBet is tied 51-51. Polymarket 48-48. Smarkets 48-48. Because of Betfair, this one, giving Trump a 1-point lead, Trump is slightly ahead of Harris to win. So in the betting markets, he's getting favored. I got to tell you, it's going to be a sour day for Alan Lichtman. They call him political Nostradamus with the keys to the White House. If he gets this one wrong, he will have egg on his face.
That's a big change. Just sorry, one last thing. If you look at the chart, it's a massive change. It only happened the last few days. The margin was 6 points in September 21st, about a week and a half ago. 6-point difference, Harris.
Yeah.
And then now, and then you see it going down, and then in the last 2 days, it went massively. So 3 days ago was 2-point difference, 3-point difference, 2-point, and then now Trump is ahead.
Well, look at this. On the sidebar, you can see here that Trump is winning in the battlegrounds by 0.1 points. Nationally, Harris is up 2.2. However, we expect there to be a 3-point margin of error. So this is toss-up. Now, if we factor in the 2016 and the 2020 biases that favor Democrats, that would put Trump up 1 point on the low end. On the high end, he's up 2 points. But ignore that, because we don't know for sure, and Harris is winning in the national polls, but national polls don't win you elections. It's starting to come into focus. Early voting is happening now, but it does seem like we may be on track for a Donald Trump victory with a Kamala Harris popular vote margin victory.
Back to the longshoremen. I don't know how many people are going to feel sympathetic to them. They approximately make $43 an hour. 25 in Philadelphia and then 120 in California. And we have North Carolina, we have Tennessee, we have Florida, we have the huge hurricanes, and they're going to start losing supplies, and it's going to be terrible for them if they don't come back to start working. So I don't know who's going to, they're going to lose.
Automation is one of the big issues for the longshoremen.
Yeah.
They want guarantees in their contract. They're not going to get replaced by robots, and they're not going to give it to them. And actually, one of the complaints they had is that despite their demands for contract guarantees, these companies have been bringing the robots in anyway. You look at China, they're already automated.
Yes.
Now, it's tough. Do we just say we're going to keep your jobs forever despite the technology existing to automate your position? I say bring the technology. That being said, I don't believe we should punish the workers. We need to find a soft landing for people who lose their jobs through no fault of their own.
Yeah, public perception is an interesting phenomenon because over the past decade or so, unions have surged to, I think, the highest public popularity in a long time. So it could be interesting to see if they're viewed as selfish, if that could start to reverse. Right now, unions are in a strong position, but I agree. Long term, it's got to be automation. I mean, it's hard to imagine 2100 that with the technology currently intact, that we're still going to be having these handful of union guys unloading all the boats. And again, what usually happens in things like this is they do find new jobs eventually. I agree. There's ways in which they can retrain and so forth, but it's unrealistic, I think, to say that forever, in perpetuity, we're just going to have guys unloading boats.
It's no way. We're the future.
It's interesting that it reflects fears that probably like long-haul truck drivers have and other industries that, hypothetically, there is a way to automate the job into, automate them out of a job. Maybe that's not happening in the next 2 years. Maybe it's happening in the next 10. But there are people who this is sort of the trade, right? Their dads were in these industries. This is the industry they go into. And to think that they are going to let the industry be destroyed, even though it has provided for their family for generations, I can can see that being a big issue, something that you would be willing to say, I know we have crisis right now, but we feel like this is our argument issue, more so than the wages. I've heard the wages things before, that they have high wages, so what are they arguing about? Okay. But they do say, West Coast has higher.
Yes,
so
exactly. But they want wages even higher than West Coast. I think they want to say a 77% hike, which makes that means they'll be higher paid than the West Coast. Not sure if that's a negotiation tactic.
I assume it's in part negotiation,
exactly.
right? You're not going to ask for exactly what you want.
Philadelphia is only 25K, it says, per Brave AI. 25K a year, which is 4% less than national average, is nothing. 25K is
what if,
zero.
hey, look, these guys go on strike. What if the companies just bring in the robots? Okay, you guys are on strike. Robots come on in, take their jobs. You can strike as long as you want.
Yeah, if they could do it quickly, but it takes time. Yeah. I think this is going to be resolved. I think eventually robots have to take their place, otherwise the US will no longer be competitive. I think that's long term. But what I'm really kind of contemplating is how big of an impact this will have in 5 weeks' time.
Yeah,
I'm worried about the disaster zones too, man. We need to worry about those folks.
Yeah. Especially if they have to wait 5 weeks for the result, because then they actually are waiting 10 weeks for the goods to finally get
the government's
there.
already effing them over.
But here's a simple one. It's time to stop being so reliant on imports, and we need to make sure that we're doing as much as we can here at home. I get it. You want bananas, we can only do so much. You want avocados, we can only do so much. We got avocados in California, I'm pretty sure, but we get a lot from Mexico. And when it comes to shipping, we're getting a lot of these coming from the Caribbean and other island nations. So you might just not be able to get your bananas or your Heineken, which is coming from Europe. Where does Heineken?
We have
I think
American
it's Germany.
beer.
I'm pretty sure
You
it's
can drink
Germany.
that.
Belgium?
Yeah, I think it's right.
Or Belgium?
German?
This is what I actually thought was one of JD Vance's best moments on stage. I
Holland.
talk about the debate the whole time, but
Wow, we were all wrong. Huh?
Per Sergi.
Oh, really? Okay.
the European, he got it. Okay, but JD Vance said, if you are really concerned about the environment, you would want U.S. manufacturing to move back to the U.S. because we have the cleanest economy. We hold ourselves to standards that other nations don't. And I feel similarly about shippings and goods. If you are concerned about being dependent on international shippings, then we should want to buy domestically. There is this this is the way we operate, so we have to continue this system, when really I think Americans are looking to say we are dependent on everyone but ourselves.
Yeah, slight rabbit trail. So I was shocked at the debate last night where, obviously they're going to ask about Khalid, but what they asked was not about, how do you think the federal government is helping the victims properly? They asked about, what do you think this says about climate change? They didn't care at all about the actual people who were suffering. They're like, what about climate change? And, I think Vance did a good job of making the human element back in, basically saying we're praying for the people who are down there and suffering and pivoting back to the manufacturing stuff. But I was just floored that the media didn't even care enough about Appalachia to say, ask one question about, what do you think the federal government's doing a good job at helping them out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we can't critique Biden because then we're critiquing Harris. And, I thought CBS, other than a couple obvious moments, generally did better than the previous debate moderators. But, they obviously can't risk Kamala Harris seeming like she didn't do a good job by not going down there. She's finally going to Georgia, I heard. Biden was in North Carolina today. I think there is this keeping all disasters at arm's length so you don't look like it's happening in your America, which is the NIMBYism that put manufacturing somewhere else in the first place and caused all kind of economic weakness.
Guys, I've got a question for you. The head of the Longshoremen Union, he met Trump in 2023. I didn't give this too much importance, but he hasn't met Kamala Biden in years. Wow. Do you think that could be a shift within the union or other unions towards the right? Because I genuinely think this could flip the election one way or another.
Look at the Teamsters.
Yeah.
I don't know how the Democrats are going to win when the Teamsters have flipped. You've lost the unions then. What do they have? I mean, look, I get it. Everyone says as soon as I say this, they're going to do mail-in ballots or something like that. I get it.
But do you think that what that strike was potentially politically motivated, at least the timing of it?
From the dock workers? I don't know.
Wasn't it planned out? Didn't they have it planned out?
They went on strike when their contract expired, and their contract was set 6 years ago.
The West Coast cannot because of their contract. You're right.
Right. Why the Biden-Harris administration did not see this coming when it's been brewing for a while, I don't know. You think they would have leaned on someone to be like, push this back until December. But again, they, either the workers didn't comply, whatever it was. What I wonder, more so than a shift in the union workers, and it might be that there's a political sentiment shift there, is this evidence of lip service from the Biden-Harris administration? They tout Biden as the most pro-union president. He stood on a picket line. No one's ever done that before. But he didn't even seem to be prepared to intervene preemptively on this. I thought he was so pro-workers. They have been clear that they are unhappy and they want to negotiate. But there was sort of a standstill. He didn't try to break in then and negotiate between workers and employees. He just sort of let it happen. Maybe that's because he hates Kamala Harris and it was like, well, I'll just let you burn. Right.
Well, this happened 2 years ago where I think it was the railways also went on strike right before the election. It was the same exact questions we're asking now. Is this going to affect, outcomes? Are people going to be upset as the supply chain is shut down? But again, it's a replay of 2 years ago.
Do you think that American workers are sympathetic to Kamala Harris when she says stuff like, I am the middle class?
I know. It's hard to, she went to, elite schools and so forth, and she's been in politics her entire life. It's hard to imagine. And I think, they see Trump as more genuine just because, he's more Americana, so to speak. And, sure, he comes from a wealthy family, but...
He comes from a wealthy family, but he actually did manage workers and work with other companies. Like, in a business sense, I think he is the one you'd actually want in the room. She's a politician. She's the one pushing the legislations that make it life difficult for the workers and for the companies. He's on the other side of that being like, how do we get our work done?
And I told him just to play a clip now. I want you to listen to the leader of the union to give you an idea of who Kamala has to negotiate with.
It's going to hurt the everyday American, the farmers that need to reach the export market.
Listen, now you start to realize who the longshoremen are, right?
Nobody cares.
People never gave a shit about us until now, when they finally realized that the chain is being broke now. Cars won't come in. Food won't come in. Clothing won't come in. You know how many people depend on our jobs? Half the world. And it's time for them and time for Washington to put so much pressure on them to take care of us, because we took care of them. And we're here 135 years and brought them where they are today, and they don't want to share.
Imagine negotiating with that guy. I don't know what's going to happen for Kamala. I don't know what's going to happen.
One question.
Isn't that the guy? This guy in a movie one day.
Yes. Isn't this the guy who said, "I will cripple you," or is that somebody else?
That's him, Harold Daggett.
It is, yeah.
He makes almost $1 million a year, by the way.
He's not mincing words.
Yeah, he gets paid. Yeah, exactly.
I still like him. I understand, we got some people chatting saying, I don't appreciate that. You're saying you're going to cripple us when we're, dealing with this inflation, plus it's a disaster. But in terms of fighting for his people,
you got to respect it. Yeah.
I absolutely respect that. That guy's a union leader right there.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe and we'll see you all there.